Okay, so the first question that we were asked was actually related to learning partners and how you best pick a learning partner. So it's a really interesting question, and how you go about picking a learning partner. A learning partner can be anybody at all that you feel you can learn something from. It does not have to be, I think sometimes we think that learning partners have to be somebody who's more experienced than us and somebody who can teach us something more about our subject, but it doesn't have to be that at all. It can actually be somebody who is a new teacher who doesn't necessarily have the same experience as you. And what you can do is have a conversation together. They will have lots of new ideas, lots of innovative new ideas, and you'll be able to have that conversation together about what you're looking for and what sort of attitude you think learning partners should have. And you'll be able to learn off each other for certain. So does it have to be from your same subject? Absolutely not. You could have a learning partner from, if you're secondary school, from a different subject. So for example, I'm an English teacher. I have worked in professional development communities in the schools that I've worked in, and I worked really closely with a history teacher. Now, interestingly, very similar history and English with regards to the fact that there is very much interpretation skills and very much reference. You have to reference the text, reference the source. So what we actually found together is that we had some really similar ideas as to how we wanted our students to analyse the text and to reference. So it is definitely worth having a think about outside of your subject. I have, for the analysis, I use a very certain structure where the students have to make a point and answer the question, use evidence, so quote, explain. And what the history teacher found is that actually she found that really applicable, and she could translate that to her own subject. And suddenly she was started using that sort of terminology, and she was able to say things like, well, I know you do it in English and I know you understand it in English, so let's apply the same skill here. So there was a real it was very beneficial because it was cross-curricular in terms of some of the skills that were coming forward. The other thing about learning partners is it doesn't have to be completely formal. It doesn't have to be that you have to sit at the back of somebody's classroom and observe them all the time. And you can just have that quick WhatsApp text of, I'm feeling a bit uninspired today. Have you got an idea about? It could be a quick email. It could be that you pass them on the corridor and you say, oh, that idea that you had about praise was really good. So it's about feeling supported within our own communities, and it's about not feeling isolated. And I know that sometimes we can feel a little bit isolated because sometimes we're the only adult in the classroom for the whole day and you don't get to see someone else. I've had a comment. Maliwa, I'm really sorry, Maliwa, for saying your name incorrectly. Maliwa has said, nice program. Thank you so much, Maliwa. Do you have a question for me? I am absolutely happy to answer it. It can be anything at all that you want to ask us. But thank you for that comment about nice program. That's really, really lovely of you. So what else can we talk about with learning partners? Well, all of our courses do promote the idea of learning partners, and if you're struggling and thinking about learning partners, definitely have a look at our courses. The part 1 is always free, and part 2 at the minute is free just with the code Teach2030, and that will take you through a couple of more ideas about learning partners and why they are so important. So that's definitely something to think about. The other thing that I think we've had a comment about is about growth mindset, which is totally different to the idea of learning partners, obviously, but we've had these 2 questions. So learning partners, really important in terms of our morale, learning off each other, community, growth mindset, all about our attitude that we have towards learning. Now, what's the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset? And this might be new or it might be confusing. A fixed mindset is the idea that we don't believe in growth. We believe that intelligence is very much set. So we might say things like clever boy. I knew he couldn't do the task. His brother's useless. That's a very fixed mindset approach. Whereas the growth mindset is the belief that all of us are capable of learning and learning new things. And the idea that it's not set in stone. And it's really important when we think about life outside of the classroom. I don't like to believe that I can't learn something new. And you know, when I think about things like my parents, they're not necessarily very musical. So they're not musical, so I can't be. That would be very fixed mindset. Whereas, okay, they may not enjoy and have an interest in being very musical, playing a musical instrument. But just because they're like that, that's why they're not necessarily skilled in playing the piano, for example, is because they've not put the effort into doing it and trying the new skill. Whereas actually, I have an interest in something. I know nothing about it right now. I cannot play anything, but I want to be able to do it so I can persevere through to do that. So the growth mindset is about being open-minded about where we can go in terms of what we can learn, and having that same attitude about, number one, our professional development, and the fact that we are not all perfect teachers, and it's very difficult to be perfect, but it's also very difficult to be a useless teacher. So, because that's very fixed. And about learning and growing as teachers, and the idea that actually at the minute my strength is not formative assessment, but I know that I can learn more strategies by doing this, and this is an area that I want to focus on to develop myself further. That's very growth mindset in attitude. So very much, if you're interested in the growth mindset and you're interested in thinking about changing the way you think, our growth mindset course is a really good place to begin. And that's available on the Teach2030 website, and it's the growth mindset course under our teachers area. Okay. Any further questions? I know that we had a couple of people who were watching us live on Facebook, but there don't seem to be any further questions coming through. So I'm going to call that the 15 minutes. If you have any questions for us and you are watching this on, it's no longer live and you're watching it back, please do feel free to contact us, ask us a question, and we will try and answer it and be there for you to answer it however you want. Again, I'm really sorry that you've had to listen to me by myself. Unfortunately, my colleague is unwell, so she's unable to join me. I hope you have a great day, and for those of you who are back from Easter holidays, I hope school has gone well and that your Easter was super. Thank you very much for joining us. Take care.